Yeah, that's great. And what underpins that is the sort of my incredulity at the different types and the sophistication of the communication that goes on. I mean, people think, well, you just signaled I'm here, that's it. But no, they're signaling to others, like T cells, you got to come right now because we got a problem, and send some more, and go over there and go this way because that route's blocked. I mean, it's it's mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean, I'm right about that from your book, right? I mean,
Right.
these cells communicate how to come, watch out for this. I mean, it's mind-blowing.
One of the smartest cells in the body is the capillary cell. That's the lining cell of the smallest vessels where the oxygen takes place, the transfer of O2 and CO2. These tiny little capillary cells actually sit in the organ and tell the organ when to make more cells, what kind of cells to make. They tell the stem cells. Their stem cells are sitting right next to them, and they communicate, no, you need more of these, you need more of these. And it's funny, Aristotle had said everything's directed by the blood vessels, and everyone thought he was crazy until a couple of years ago when we realized he was right. I don't know how he knew that, but it didn't make any sense. But that capillary cell notices there's an infection in the tissue and starts signaling to whoever will listen at first. And usually the first responder are platelets. And platelets we think are a plug, but they're not. They're an intelligent cell with all kinds of messenger RNA. They make all kinds of proteins. They have receptors and signals. They then, the capillary says, no, we need neutrophils. We need this particular immune cell. They signal all the way to the bone marrow. And these cells start marching along, even against the flow of the blood, by grabbing onto the edge and moving along. And all this happens in the cell by a scaffold that it's like an amoeba, they bulge forward and they pull it back. And all this is being orchestrated like the way an axon is built in the neuron. But it's happening almost instantaneously. They're building these large scaffolds to move the nucleus forward, to move the front forward, to bring up the rear. And all of this is going on because that capillary cell is signaling. Then it says, come this way. And then they arrive and they say, I'm here. So the capillary says, okay, you sure? They signal back, yes, you're the one. And they open a pathway between the cells so the leukocyte can squeeze through. I have a great picture of that in my book, of a leukocyte squeezing through. And then once they're in the tissue, the leukocyte kind of takes over from the capillary cell to direct the action, and they make a circle around it, and the ones closer signal back. But they're all waiting for the T cell, the master cell. So the T cell eventually arrives, and the T cell takes over the direction and eventually figures out exactly what receptor it needs for this virus or this bacteria, and then helps the B cell make antibodies and helps direct the action. And then they have to stop and tamp it down or they damage the tissue. So then another kind of T cells start saying, no, enough, okay, enough. And that's why they're not as good with cancer, because cancers are multiple different parts, have different characteristics. And it's like a community of different subcultures in the cancer. And the T cell gets used to fighting one of them and then is used to tamping it down. But this fight with the cancer is going to go on for weeks and months. And therefore, a new T cell has to learn about the other subsets. And so T cells aren't as good with cancer, although they can be. And we've sort of learned to help them by learning the communication. We then can make treatments. That's how treatments are made, by understanding. So it's actually much more complicated. In other words, it used to be you study the kidney and you'd study a kidney cell, that's what you thought. But now, no, you have to study the neuron, the capillary, the microbe, all these things all over the body are talking, the fibroblasts are talking about that kidney cell, but at least we know where to look now. And when we look, we can find signaling communication systems that we can intercept and interact with. And that's what, of course, microbes do. They learn the specific communication that's going on, and they manipulate it. And that's what cancers do. Cancers manipulate their local communication. Anyway,